Hi, I'm Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Wandering Towers. Now, it doesn't look like Wandering Towers. Yeah, Die Wandelnden Türme. I probably pronounced that pretty bad. Apologize to the German speakers out there. I'm still trying to learn. I actually picked this up at the Essen Spiel game convention last year. But even though it's German on the box, I mean, there's no language on the pieces. It's totally language independent. And now this has been published in English. It's just called Wandering Towers in English. But it's a super quick, fun game by two of the greatest, most popular board game designers of all time, Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. Michael Kiesling is the guy who designed Azul, which is the first of these how to play videos that I made. So it's got a great design pedigree. Let me show you how it plays. Die Wandelnden Türme. So yeah, Wandering Towers. Okay, so I've got it set up for a 3-player game. As you can see over here to the side, there's more pieces for. You can go up to 6 players. You know, there's purple and orange and green also, in addition to the red, yellow, and blue that I've got laid out. One thing to note is you do use a variable number of little potion flasks and wizards, depending on the player count. And it's summarized right in the front of the rule book. So in a 2-player game, you would use 5 wizards and all 6 potion flasks, whereas all the way up to a 6-player game, you'd only use 3 wizards apiece and 4 flasks. So quick little reference to make sure you set it up properly. So I've got, again, with 3 players, it's set up for a 3-player game, 5 flasks and 4 wizards per player. Okay, I will just move this for a quick second so you can kind of see the board. The board actually comes in 4 pieces like this, and you just set it up like so. There's a little picture of it in the rule book to show you how to set it up. And then it says you've got, of course, the tower, or I guess the castle, whatever they're calling it. What is the word in the rule book? They call it the Raven Castle. So you put that on the starting space with the little stone ruins. And then there's 9 towers. You can see some of them have this little raven shield on the top, and some do not. And so starting with a shield, you put a castle with a shield on the next base, and you alternate ones with and then without until you put all 9 towers on the board. Okay? So that's how you set up the board and the towers. All right? There's a number of magic spells that you can use in the game. Some of them it says to not use unless you're using the advanced rules. It says for your first game to use these 2 spells. And I'll kind of get to how those work in just a minute. It's the move a tower and move a wizard spell. But you just kind of set those in the middle of the ring here. You shuffle the deck of cards. Each player gets 3 cards to start, right? You just set the die off to the side. You determine a start player. I give that person the Raven token, so we'll say blue is the start player. And then the last part of setup is you have to put the wizards onto the board, okay? Now, I'll explain how this works, but there is a little reminder on the board. It may be hard to see zoomed out, but you see there's 3 little fairy, like lightning bugs, whatever you want to call it. There's 3 little glowing things there on these first 3 spaces as a reminder that 3 wizards go in each of those towers. And then there's 2 on these spaces, reminding us that 2 wizards go in those towers. And then on these ones, there's 1. So 1 wizard would go in those towers. What am I talking about? Well, the way that you set up is starting with the start player and going around clockwise, you populate the towers with everyone's wizards. So blue would put 1 on the start tower, and then the next player, and then the next player. And again, these first 3 spaces hold 3 wizards each. So then you go to the next tower, blue would go there, then the next player, red would go there, yellow would go there, and we repeat again. Blue would go there, and then red, and then yellow. Again, this may look a little different if you're playing with more players, right? You would put 3 per tower on the first 3 spaces, going clockwise from the start player. Once you get to the next 3 towers, you only do 2 wizards per tower. So we're back to the start player. Blue would put 1 there, red would put 1 there. That's 2. Then we go to the next tower. The next player would put 1 there. And then if we had more, we would keep going. So in a 3-player game, it would look like this. I figured I would just show you really quick what it might look like for 6 players. Rather than just talk about it, I'll illustrate. Once again, if you look in the rulebook, it says for 6 players, I would use only 3 wizards of each color and 4 flasks. Okay, 4 potion flasks. So you see, I've got all 6 colors. There's 3 of each wizard and 4 of each flask. Okay, so again, assuming that blue is the start player, again, if you remember, these first 3 towers each get 3 wizards, the next 3 each get 2 wizards, and the last 3 each get 1 wizard. So starting with the start player, blue would put 1, then green would put 1, and then purple. So again, you go clockwise around the table. Next player would be orange, and then red, and then yellow, and then back to the start player, right? Then blue, and then green, and purple again. And now we get to where there's only 2. So the next one, orange would put 1, red would put 1, then that's 2, then we go to the next one. Then yellow would put 1, blue would put their last 1, and then we go to 2 again. Green would put their last 1, purple would put their last 1, and then the last towers just have 1 each. So then orange would go there, red would go there, and yellow would go there. So in a 6-player setup, that's how it would look. Okay, with 3, 2, and 1 wizard per tower with 4 potion flasks per player. So that's a 6-player setup. Again, so that was a 6-player setup, but now obviously for this little run through, I'm going to demonstrate a 3-player setup. So here we are again with just the blue, red, and yellow with 5 flasks per player and then 4 wizards per player. And this is again 3, 3, 3, 2. We would have 2 and 2 and 1 and 1 and 1, but we ran out of wizards. So this is a 3-player setup. Okay, so before I start talking about a turn, I'll talk about how to win. Okay, so to win the game, the object is to, first of all, get all of your potion flasks filled. You can see once you fill them, you flip them over and you see that there's potions of that player's color. So you see the red and the yellow and the blue potions. Okay, so to win the game, you need to get all of your potion flasks filled and all of your wizards into the Raven Castle. Okay, the first person to do that triggers the end of the game. Okay, once somebody has gotten all potions filled and all their wizards in the tower, you finish the round. So in this case, blue is the start player, so yellow would be the last person to go. So if yellow got their last wizard in the tower, the game would instantly end because they went last. But if blue did it, red and yellow would still get their fair turn. Make sense? Okay. So again, all your flasks filled and then all your wizards in the tower. If there's a tie, if multiple people manage to make all their wizards in the tower, the tiebreaker would be how many potions do I have that I've filled up that I still have left? And what do you mean that I still have left? Well, that's where these spells come in. During the course of the game, once you fill up potions, you can see, to use this spell, it would cost 1 potion. You know, to use this spell, it would cost 2 potions. Okay, so just as for example, that's something that you can do on your turn. You can spend filled up potions to take actions on the spells. So at the end of the game, you may have less than your full amount still in your possession. That would be the tiebreaker if more than one person gets all their wizards in the tower in that same round. But otherwise, that's the goal. Fill your flasks, get your wizards in the tower to win the game. Okay, so let's go back. So how does the game play? So you start the game with all of your flasks empty, and you start with 3 cards. So blue is the start player. So on your turn, you get to do 2 movement actions, okay? Your actions are either to move your wizards or to move the towers, okay? Let me show you some of these cards, okay? So here's an example of a card you could play that would let you move a wizard or a witch, whatever you want to call it. Here's a card that would let you choose. You know, cards like this where it has both, you could choose to either move a tower or move a witch. Or let me show you another one, maybe here in the middle of the deck. Yeah, this is just to move a wizard. Your choice. This is one that lets you just move a tower. So you see there's cards of types either move just a tower or move just a wizard or move either. So those are the types of cards that you'll see in the game. Okay, so like I said, on your turn, you get to play 2 cards. Okay, so for instance, let's say I play a card like this. Some cards, let me hold this up closer so you can see. Some cards have the picture of a die on them. That's where this die comes in. If you play one of those cards, you roll the die, and whatever number you roll, that's the movement value. Whereas If I play this, my movement value would be 5 for the towers, or just 1 for the wizards. But if you have this, you can roll the die to see what you move. Some pictures have multiple dice. You see there's 2 dice on this card, okay? So if I were to play this card, I could roll the die. If I don't like that result, I can roll a second time. But if I do, I have to use the new value. I can't go back to, oh, I like my first roll better. No, you can't do that. So you can roll up to 2 times. There's even some cards in the deck that let you roll up to 3 times. So cards will either have just a set value of what the movement would be, or maybe a single chance to roll a die, or 2 chances, or even 3 chances to roll the dice to see what the movement would be. So again, back to my turn. Let's just say I'm going to start off by moving a tower. So maybe I want to play this card. And so let's say, okay, so that was my die roll. Whoops. Well, I don't remember, Let's say it was a 3, okay? So when you choose to move a tower, you move whatever tower you want, okay? The one thing you cannot move is you cannot move the Raven Castle, but you can move any of the towers. And what are you trying to do? Well, the way that you fill up your potions is you capture people underneath a tower, okay? And so whether it's yourself or someone else, as long as you can put a tower to cover another wizard, that's what lets you fill up a potion. So maybe I'll say with a value of 3, maybe I'll just say simply 1. Well, maybe I won't do that because I don't want to cover myself. Maybe I'll say this. I'll say 1, 2, 3. Again, anytime you pick up a tower, you pick up everything that's on that tower as well. So maybe I move that tower 1, 2, 3 spaces because that's what I rolled with the die. And you see, I covered up a wizard, okay? So when you cover up a wizard, that lets you fill a potion, okay? It does not matter, like maybe if you cover up multiple wizards, you still only fill 1 potion, okay? It doesn't matter whether you fill 1 or more, 1 potion per tower movement is what you can fill up, okay? If a wizard is covered, that wizard cannot move until they are uncovered again later on. Okay, so there is a little bit of a memory element to this game, but it's funny. You forget so quickly where your wizards are. The game just turns into it's a real hoot. It's really funny trying to figure out and remember where things were. Okay, so let's say that was my first action. I moved a tower, and I filled up one of my potions because I covered a wizard. Maybe for my next movement, maybe let's do it again. Well, if I move a tower a full 5 spaces, I'm not going to be able to cover anybody up. So maybe I'll do something different. Maybe I'll say, you know what? I will just play this to move one of my wizards 1 space. Again, you do either this or this. You can't do both. It's either or when there's 2 things on a card. So I'll play this to move a wizard 1 space. To move a wizard, it has to be uncovered. Again, the yellow person could not move their wizard that's under the tower. So maybe I'll move the blue wizard forward 1 space like that. So once you've played your 2 cards, your turn's over. You draw back up to 3, and then it's the next person's turn. Okay, so it comes over here to red, and red says, you know what? I want to try and get some quick potions myself. They're looking at their options. Maybe they say, and I'll illustrate an example. Okay, so here's one example where, first of all, maybe red says, I'm going to move a tower 2 spaces. So 1, 2, okay? Yes, they did cover themselves, but they covered wizards, so that gives them a potion, okay? And then maybe they say, you know what? I'm going to move a tower 1 space, okay? So they could say, I'm going to move this tower onto here. That is also legal, right? They covered up wizards, and so once again, they fill a potion. Okay, now red would have to remember, okay, I've got one of my people there and I got one of my people here. Again, you may not remember that as you go, but that's part of the fun of the game. They would draw back up to 3 to end their turn. It would come to yellow. Yellow says, well, I don't have very many options of covering wizards right now, by moving towers to cover wizards. So they say, maybe I'll try. I'll see if I can get lucky and cover. And they said, oh, I didn't do it. I got 1. So they could say, you know what? This is one of those options. You can see right now, this tower has multiple tower pieces on it. Whenever you choose to move a tower, you can move any tower and everything that is stacked on top of that goes with it. So if you remember this, the first turn, yellow got their wizard covered up. So maybe they say, I want to move this tower one space forward. So I would move both towers along with the wizards that are trapped, and that would go one space forward. Now yellow's wizard is free again. So now maybe with their next move, they'll say, I'll move 3 spaces. So maybe he wants to move this guy to the top to get him moving along. So he'll say, I'll go 1, 2, 3. So those are his 2 turns. So he draws his 2 actions. So he draws back up. Then it comes back to blue, and blue is looking, okay, I've only got 1 wizard that I can move. I'll see if I can get some more towers. I'll try this. Maybe I'll move a tower 2 spaces. And blue, I think, got some of their pieces covered, so they want to move just the top one. So they'll go 1, 2, they'll cover up the yellow wizard again and fill a potion. And then for their second action, maybe let's say, you know what, I'll move, there's no good chance, 1, 2, 3, 4. That would not let them cover someone. Maybe they'll say, you know what, I'll move 2 spaces for a wizard. So this guy will go 1, 2. Okay, they'll draw back up, and you get the gist, right? You can either move the wizards or you can move the towers. Okay, you cannot move a wizard that is trapped, of course. So what happens if your turn comes and you literally have nothing to play? Maybe all of red's pieces are covered, and maybe they have nothing to play. If you literally have no cards to play, or if you just choose not to play any of them, you can choose to discard your entire hand and then move any tower 1 space forward. So maybe they could do something like this. Move this tower forward. They'd probably want to take yellow with them. Do this. And then, of course, they covered a wizard, so they'd get a potion. But then they would draw back up. So basically their whole turn is they just kind of reset their hand. But your consolation for resetting a hand is you get to move any 1 tower forward 1 space. Okay? So then red has their new hand. Again, so that turn, they only took 1 action, 1 movement action, because they discarded their whole hand of cards. No, right now they've got some options. They would not have done that. I'm just illustrating one of your options. Okay, so now's where it gets a little interesting. Okay, so what happens with all this, and how do we get closer to winning? Okay, so I've maybe just fast forwarded a little bit. Maybe a few minutes later into the game, after a couple more turns, maybe the towers and wizards have moved and the board might look like this. Okay, I want to illustrate one of the important things of another important aspect of the game. So let's say it's blue's turn again. So they're looking at their cards here, and you can see they have 1 card that could move a tower 2 spaces, or a wizard 2 or 4, or they could get up to 2 die rolls for having to move a wizard. Well, they're thinking, oh, I see an option for how to get one of my wizards into the castle. That's the object of the game. Let's try and do it. So first of all, they say, I will play this card to move a tower 2 spaces. So blue says, I will move this tower 1, 2 spaces. Once again, they covered red, so they get to fill one of their potions, and that's their first action. Then with their second action, they say, haha, this is great. I can move a wizard 2 spaces. The wizard goes 1, 2, and goes into the castle. That's awesome. Okay, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get all your wizards in the castle. When that happens, two things occur when a wizard moves into the castle. First and foremost, that ends your turn. Even if that was blue's first card they played, that's it. Still, their turn is still over. Even though they only played one of their 2 actions, when you get a wizard in the tower, your turn is over. So the most any player could ever get in the castle is 1 wizard per turn. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing that happens is once a wizard goes into the castle, the Raven Castle moves. Okay, it picks up and it moves to the next space on the board where there is an empty Raven shield. Okay, so in this case, blue puts their wizard in the castle and it moves to this space there. Okay, if that space were occupied, maybe if there was a tower there, it would keep going to the next unoccupied space. So maybe something like this. And this, you see that again, I think 5 of the 9 towers have the little Raven shield. And in that case, it would go there. And that kind of makes things even a little bit more wacky, whatever word you want to use. Because now when you do the move a tower, you could move the tower and carry the castle with it. So sometimes that does happen, okay? So that's one thing that kind of makes the game a little more fun and interesting. So again, when you get a wizard into the castle, your turn ends and the castle moves to the next empty shield space. So that would be the rest of blue's turn. They would draw back up to 3 cards, then it'll be back to red's turn. Okay, maybe I'll take a turn with red. Red ideally would want to get a wizard in the tower also. Not sure if it's really possible. Maybe they'll start off by just doing, playing move a castle 4 spaces. So let's say 1, 2, or a tower, 3, 4. They'll cover blue. Let's say, haha, you just got one in the castle. I'm not going to let you move again. So they've almost got all their potions filled now. And then maybe with their next one, they'll say maybe they move one of their wizards 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here are the spells. Okay, so this is I want to illustrate this. I talked at the very beginning. There's 2 spells. There's the move a tower spell and the move a wizard spell that cost 1 and 2 potions to use respectively. Okay, to use those, the potions that you spend, they have to be already filled potions. I cannot spend an empty potion towards using a spell. But say maybe red ended their turn right there, and they're like, oh, I was so close. But they say, look, I can move, and you see, the move a tower is I can move any tower in the game plus 2 spaces forward on the track. Okay? The move a wizard spell is you move a wizard plus 1 space on the track. And during your turn, you can use at most 1 spell per turn. Okay? So maybe red moved the tower, covered blue and got the potion, and then played the card to move their wizard up close to the end. And now they say, for my last, for my little bonus action, I will spend 2 of my filled potions. Those just go out of the game now. They can't use them anymore. To move a wizard 1 more space. So then red could go into the castle like that. And once again, so that would end their turn. Their turn was basically over anyway, but that would end their turn. And then the castle would move to the next empty spot with a raven shield. Okay, so that's another example of what you can do on your turn. So then red would draw back up to 3 cards to end their turn. And then it would be the yellow player's turn, and so on. So you can see over the course of the game, the Raven Castle is going to be moving quite a bit along with, the wizards and along with the towers. And so it's really quick. A lot of times you're not really sure where they are. Again, anytime that you choose to move a tower, you can move any tower. It can be the entire stack or any one in the stack. But once you see what's there, you can't go back and undo it. So once you look, sometimes you guess wrong. Sometimes you think, I think my wizard's right there, and you move it, and you say, oh, I was wrong, dang it. Somebody else says, hey, thanks a lot for making my wizard free so I can move him again. But it goes kind of back and forth like that until somebody gets all their wizards in here. But you have to have all your potions full to get your last wizard. You can't win the game until all your potions are full and all your wizards are here. And even though red spent these potions, they still count as being full. Right? Because obviously you can't even spend potions unless they are full. So red still already, even though they've been spent, those still count towards getting all their potions filled. Okay, one last thing that I'll mention. If there's ever a couple of situations where you cannot do a movement. If there's ever, the limit on 1 space is 6 wizards. Okay, if there's already 6 wizards on a space, you cannot move your wizard to that space. That's the limit. The other thing you cannot do is you cannot move a tower to land on top of the Raven Castle. If my movement of the tower would make it end there, I have to do something. I have to move a different tower instead. Okay, so those are really the only movement restrictions. You can't move where there's already 6 people. You could go past them, of course, but you can't land where there's already 6 people. And you can't move a tower onto the castle. But with those restrictions, pretty much everything is fair game. And again, you never move the tower itself unless somebody lands in it. Then it moves to the next space. But if the tower is on top of if the castle is on a tower, you can move the tower and the castle just goes along with it. So sometimes there's a little bit of planning of using a spell to get it in position and then moving your pieces, or maybe you hope to move a castle, a tower with a castle on it, whatever works. But again, that's the object. You get 3 cards, you take 2 actions. Again, if I already play one of my cards and then my remaining cards, nothing works, I can still just discard it, but I wouldn't do any movement. So in those cases, you still get one of your 2 turns, and then you would just draw back up to 3. Or in the other case I illustrated with red, if really nothing plays, I can discard my whole hand to move 1 tower, 1 space, whichever one I want, and then I would draw back up to 3. So those are your options for your turn, right? Play 2 movement cards, or discard your whole hand to move a tower 1 space. And again, during your turn, you can use 1 spell by spending filled potions to use those spells. And again, the goal, get all of your wizards in the tower with all of your potions filled. And the first person to do that would trigger the end of the game, You go until the last person, so the last person, the person to the right of the start player would go last. And then the tiebreaker would be, so if the game ended right now, if red and blue managed to get their wizards all in the tower in that last turn, blue still has 5 potions and red has 3, blue would win that tiebreaker. So that's how that works, okay? There are a couple of last things that I'll mention in the rules. At the end of the game, it says there's a variant for team players. So if you're playing with 4 or 6 people, you can basically, you have a teammate. So you sit directly across from your teammate. And so it talks about how to do that. It's kind of a fun way to do it. And then also it says a variant for master wizards. This is where it talks about using all the other spells. Okay, and there's been a lot of expansion packs with even more spells. But it says you can use any number of spells, you can use multiple spells on your turn, all kinds of stuff. The game becomes a lot more tactical. You have a lot more control over what you're doing if you're doing that. But with all that said, that's Wandering Towers. So once again, Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game, and that was Wandering Towers. As you can see, this game it's a little chaotic. it's fun. I mean, you start out thinking, I'm gonna remember where everything is. I'm gonna remember where my wizards are. I'm never gonna lose track, and I'm always gonna move the towers properly so I can always get my wizards, into that Raven Castle to win the game. But you very, very quickly realize there's no way you're gonna remember. It's so chaotic, and people are moving so many other things, and that's half the fun. I mean, don't think of this as a memory game, because a lot of people, they just have an aversion. They don't like memory games. So don't think of this as a memory game. I mean, it's just more of a tactical, just fun, chaotic, just kind of you laugh kind of game. It's really lightweight. The games, they're really quick. It's one of those ones that it's over quick enough that you want to say, oh, okay, I think I can do better. Let's try again. I'm going to do better this time. And it's fun because there's, like it says in the original rules, it uses those 2 spells just to move a tower, move a wizard spells. But as I showed, there's a whole bunch of other spells with different special powers, and there's even been a whole bunch of different little expansion packs of just additional spells that you can add to the game. It goes all the way up to 6 players, so it plays quite a big crowd, and it's been lots of fun. It's one of those ones that it's simple enough that even little kids can play, and the kids, I think, enjoy it maybe just as much as the adults. Covered up and haha, Dad, you can't move now. I covered up your wizard, so it's kind of fun. But it's like I said at the beginning, it's a great design pedigree. Kramer and Kiesling. I see those names on a box and I'm immediately interested. They've knocked so many out of the park that I'm interested, and I think they did a great job. This has been a lot of fun. Hopefully this teaches it, or it helps teach you the game, and you feel comfortable picking up and playing it yourself. So once again, Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game. Let me know if you have any other questions or comments, and thanks for watching.